go ahead and convene the meeting. Call to order. We'll just go around the room. There's Danny. Hey, Danny, how are you, sir?
Hi, sorry I'm late.
That's okay. We're actually just beginning. So let's start with introductions.
Cindy Shimizi, assistant to Bob Miller.
Keith Everlander, math faculty.
Denise Albright, EOPNS secretary, classified senate president.
Dave Krause, facilities, union rep.
Ruben Smith, facilities.
Danny Hammond, Community Education Center.
Kent Yamauchi, Special Services and Management Association representative.
Chelsea Glover Odom, filling in for Andrew Bott, Vice President of the Finance Committee.
And Bob Miller, Business and College Services. Okay, let's move to item number 2, approval of minutes for the January 31st meeting. Do I hear a motion? Moved by Dave, second.
I'll second.
By Denise. Discussion. All those in favor? See if I'm saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Okay. Members of the public, do we have anybody any public comment today? Okay, hearing none. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is deferred maintenance plan, and Ruben Smith, who is our executive director of facilities and construction management, is here today to not only talk about deferred maintenance, but last night Ruben did a presentation to the Board of Trustees at a study session and to the public who was there, and there were some members of the public there, regarding our Centennial Master Plan and space planning and some of the activities that we're engaged in. So Ruben thought it would make some good sense to kind of go through that today. And if you notice the last bullet, it talks about deferred maintenance, and so he will discuss that when we get down to it. So Ruben, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Is that in focus?
Yes.
Okay.
A little better?
To me, it's not.
How's that?
That's a lot better.
Okay, last night, like Bob said, we talked about basically a plan for the Centennial Master Plan and what that planning process is going to be involved with. And the first few slides, you'll see demographics and projections. And we talked about the master planning process, talk about consultants, space planning, Measure P, some of the fallouts of Measure P and some of the needs of the district, and then finally finishing up with deferred maintenance. This first slide is about the population projection for the cities within our district. You can see with Arcadia, Pasadena, and Temple City, that growth is roughly between 6 and 14%. Next slide. And this is basically the enrollment to graduation projections. If you see that the lines start to bifurcate around 2030, and that's a trend that shows more adult learners opposed to graduating high school seniors attending two-year institutions.
So hang on one second. Can you go back to that one for a second? All right. So that's really an important point for us to realize is that the baby boomer situation is coming to an end. We are going to have less high school students graduating, so less, if you will, seniors coming here, which is going to begin to move us back into the area of adults who are either coming back to get retrained or coming back and looking for occupations and jobs and what have you.
Exactly.
So transfer is always going to be an important part of what we're about, but we will be heading into an area where certificates and training and retraining are important.
Absolutely. These are the enrollment projections, employment projections for the surrounding cities. You can see Pasadena is about 11%, with Pomona and Alhambra hovering around between 6 and 8%. Fastest growing occupations requiring 2-year associate degrees, very similar to what Bob just talked about, is you can see that the top third is primarily health sciences driven.
Go back to that for a second, please. So again, now this data comes out in every 10-year blocks, right? And this is taking us through 2018. But again, basically what this is saying is these are the top jobs in California. So as we, as a college, look at where we are going to be focusing as far as employment readiness for at least this period of time and going forward, we have to decide which ones of those occupations within what areas. So Solomon Davila, as the Dean of CTE and his faculty and others that are involved in that, they are going to be paying particular attention not only to this data, but to a whole lot of other data that is really going to be informing our career and technical education area as to the direction they want to go in, which in and of itself will then inform our facilities master planning, and whether it's this campus, other campuses, what have you. So that's really critical information. Yes, Ken?
Yeah, it's a really interesting slide. It looks like, say, the top portion of that.
Yes.
We have a few, actually, currently, and historically have been around, like
Right.
registered nurses, of course, dental hygienists.
Yeah.
Now, so this might help in discussions about where PCC might be in the future in terms of planning some careers.
Exactly.
Although this one has to do with all of California, not just Southern California.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't also know what other colleges are offering yet either.
Yeah, if you look at our educational master plan and the environmental scan documents that were prepared for that, it does drill down into San Gabriel Valley, into the Southern California area, and the like. But there's a lot of commonality there. But as we go forward into our master planning, our facilities master planning concept, one of the things we're going to have to do is update the EMP 2 years later, if you will,
Yes.
and or almost 3 years later now, and kind of see where we are.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Now this is the master planning process. Right now, this is basically focusing on the design architect. So right now, we have the first block that you see there is evaluate conceptual design and preliminary alternatives. Right now, that's basically looking at what vision that we've kind of developed thus far, the gathering phase, shall we call it. And we've had some great work that we've already done with AC Martin and PBWS. So we'll re-review that work, see what came out of that, what's going to go into the very next phase, which is the RFP. That's the request for proposal. So with the request for proposal, we have a couple of options there moving forward and how we go about a public bid, basically an open bidding process for planning architects and engineers to submit a proposal to us to see what we need to do moving forward. That is actually going through the shared governance process. That's going through and gathering more information. So it's taking what AC Martin and PBWS has already done and adding to that based on what input we get from the community, from the college, from the students. And then the next phase would be, so we'd go through the RFP process and then we'd go through awarding a contract. And then there's the collaboration phase. And then we would review that and ultimately end up with an approval and a facility master plan about 17, 18 months from now. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that this is the facility master plan timeline. Right now we're at the top left where it says March of 2013. And if we were to go out to bid roughly around April, it's a couple of months from now, we would look to award sometime in July. But that from July, you'll see that the collaboration will take at least 6 months or more. So we're looking at February of next year, 1 year from right now. That would ultimately lead to a budget development, probably next April or May of next year, based on whatever design we come up with. So built on the master plan, we will be able to add a budget to it. And with that budget, that's what we'd have to consider of, possibly going after another bond. That could be 2014, that can be 2016. Really won't know right now because the EIR is another phase that comes around in August. And EIR is very critical. It's what we can do. It takes public comment, it takes review. So sometimes that could be more than 3 to 4 months. Typically it's about 3, but it just depends on what we get from the comments that out there.
And EIR is an environmental
impact report. I'm sorry. So master planning, basically this is the vision that we're talking about. We're talking about developing a process. The framework for a goal goals and vision integration. Highly collaborative. I can't say that enough because we want PCC to be the best community college in the world. So you look at it, you see the user groups and the stakeholders are at the center, and that collaboration runs all the way around from the program to planning, interior and exterior, all your infrastructure, that's mechanical, electrical, the interiors, that's the furniture design, how we want the campus to look and feel. Are we going to keep the green space? So you have landscaping. What is the construction going to be? Is there going to be renovation? And then, what is our site? So again, like I said, based on the work from AC Martin and PBWS, this is pretty much the mission that has been developed to guide the upgrading, modernization, and management of the college facilities for the next 10 years. I have to emphasize the management of this because we can do a lot of upgrading and modernizing based on innovation, but we still need to manage that campus. Dave is very familiar with what maintenance management is, and we want to make sure that the spaces work as intended, not just for that first or second year or that warranty period, but we want to make sure that they're going to last 30 to 40 years. We need to maintain the facilities as we should. So, but from that is functional and programming requirements to support the educational master plan. Again, we're going to have some minor updates with the educational master plan because it's about 3 years old. So we're going to come back and look at that and basically build the program from there. We have some seismic upgrades that we're going to consider and assess and address those. Sustainability. PCC has done some really wonderful things with our sustainability efforts. So we're going to build on those things. We have some vast successes, but a lot of the successes that we're experiencing with sustainability are more or less driven by efficiency, and we still want to be more than just efficient. We want to think about renewables. We want to think about being really good stewards for the community because we are a 54-acre site. So then there is a larger demand with us in our community. So what can we do to be as efficient and as responsible as possible? And then evaluate the alternatives for campus growth and expansion. Just like the first few slides where we discussed the demographics and what the growth opportunities are. What can PCC do to support that? Is it for the adult learner? What do we need to do? Do we have satellite campuses? Is it going to be considered here something for the online? What's the future going to need? What are those needs going to be? Request for proposal. Again, it will be an open process. What you'll see in the next few slides are some really talented firms that have done great work. They're accomplished, and so you'll see some of those. It's just a sampling. This is not limited to these firms, but they will definitely be invited to bid on the process. AC Martin PBWS we've done work with. HGA Architects, Engineering Planning has done great work. GKKWorks, you'll see a slide for them. NTD Architects, WLC, HMC, Cambridge West is also local, Parsons and Jacobs. You can see here that this is some of the work that we have here. You have the Center for the Arts, and you have the ITB building. You have some work done at USC for their master planning work. This is HGA's College of the Desert. I've actually spoken with Steve Renew. He's the Director of Facilities. They're really, really happy with their plan at their West Valley campus, and what I really thought was great is they started with an individual, and then they basically started this 4-scale approach and building campus community based in, and it started with the individual. So that's the #1 stakeholder, and they looked at and they kept that premise with the design. GKKWorks has done some really great work in South Orange County, Saddleback, University of San Diego, and Irvine. Really, they do great interiors. They've done a library. They have this really wonderful layout that you see at your lower right here at South Orange County. NTD Architects, very innovative, great spaces. Again, same with WLC, who also does seats, CSUs, and UCs. This was some work at the LRC and one of their quads at Cerritos College. And this is actually a Dubai site, and then this is in Texas for Parsons. Really great work. Jacobs is talented because they do not only master planning, they also do some engineering. And I think it's critical to think about some of the things that they've done as far as central plants, as energy efficiency, reducing cost. So they've done a lot of work, engineering work, outside of just master planning. So they're an AE&E firm that does great work. But like I said, infrastructure is really critical. We can come up with a really great plan as a district that's really wonderful, but you know, the intricacies of supporting that is really critical. And I think that some of the challenges that we have is we have to make sure that we're building out for the future. And what would that mean to us? So that is being conscious as responsible stewards in the community, as well as making sure that we're doing the best and presenting the best atmosphere. Is that more bike racks? Is that a bike-friendly campus? Is that more walking to and from, you know, the campus from home and the surrounding services like your dry cleaners, you know, your store, your convenience stores to lunch and things of that nature. So infrastructure, this is what we're looking at to make sure we achieve utility infrastructure, renewable energy plans, whether it's wind, solar, geothermal, or you know, fuel cells, which has been talked about here before. But that's moving towards a net zero. We were at Caltech last night, and it was really great being there because Caltech, you know, they basically provide 80% of their own energy. They're generating 3.8 megawatts of power. So that's with their solar and with their fuel cell, and they are really that's almost like being off the grid. And that's really providing something, that valuable resources. The community is getting that because they're only taking in 20%. So that's reducing the carbon footprint and ensuring that there is a great place for our grandchildren and our children's grandchildren. Again, you'll see some of the same firms that repeated here, but there's also a couple of additional firms that do space planning and interiors. Space planning and interior design, this is about some of the challenges and the needs that we have right now outside of master planning, because the master plan is, of course, is a 10-year process. Even if all things were to go perfectly right now, we probably wouldn't be into that till about 2016, 2017. So we still have some needs within this next 4 to 5 years. This is the Jorgensen Laboratory, renovation interiors by Nyman Studios. This is actually a LEED Platinum building. It's a phenomenal space if you ever get a chance to go over and see it. They have a really wonderful conference room, lots of natural light. It's a really great space. The unique thing about this one is, you know, with a lot of our upgrades here, we've done LED lighting, but they looked at LED lighting and they actually valued that, and they thought, okay, LED lighting is a huge cost and the payback is rather large. So where they could, they actually mixed in some compact fluorescence with LED because it was basically more efficient for them to do that. So they did a really good job of engineering that out. Masbuild is another local firm that does design build, and they do great interior work. St. Holy is actually doing an amazing renovation on a hotel, and who does great work, and they visited as well last night. Measure P, just to give you a little bit of an update on Measure P, these are the projects that we've actually completed with Measure P. Very successful, about $160 million worth of work with a balance of about $16 million. But with those projects, you see that we've had a parking structure, of course, the ITB building, the campus center renovation, bookstore. We had a couple of restroom upgrades. We definitely did some infrastructure because we have the chiller plant, and we have the Center for the Arts that is still on schedule. As far as this morning, as far as I know, we're looking at 7-1 still. And then we have the elevator upgrades, which is in the process. You know, as Bob could attest, that waiting for an elevator here for 3 to 4 minutes is just really not convenient. But we are working on that. So those are things that we see that, bless you, that have been done. But we still have instructional space that needs to be addressed. So this is a list of the remaining projects that we have and the completed projects. Now you see the completed projects that are in red, and those are the ones I just went through, and then the remaining projects, well, this is basically just a general location. We didn't actually list the exact project on those, but those are the areas that are projects that are still left with Measure P that are actually on a moratorium. Please change. The moratorium projects are basically these classroom conversions and these restroom upgrades. Now, I think that it's wise to have these projects on moratoriums because we have some spaces here that we have to consider on what we're going to do next. Now, with this master plan, we're actually talking, you know, we're looking for this planning architect to tell us what's the best to do. We don't want to be too granular with our design. We want to say these are our issues and our needs, but we want to give them to you from a 30,000-foot view and let these innovators and tell us what we need to do to be as creative as they can, but give us something that works. And so please go back. So you have to consider the R building, the V building, The W, C, and E, these are all buildings that we really don't know what the future of those buildings are gonna be.
Yeah. When you say moratorium, you mean don't do them?
Don't do them. These projects are on hold. So the moratorium is, projects are on hold. We're not spending any more money on the Measure P outside of what's already been encumbered and approved. And these projects fall within that category. So we're just on hold.
And that'll become clear in a second as to why.
Okay.
Yes.
Just really quickly before I leave, I just had a couple questions. When you're talking about different companies that you're looking to bring in, were you thinking about involving any small businesses maybe?
Okay. Of course. What we were talking about, the companies that we've have some experience with, or we've seen that have done great work. That's
Okay.
just a sampling. We're actually not going to limit this open bid process. Means that we're going to open it to anyone, small businesses, women-owned businesses,
Okay.
large. It's going to be an open process, no limits at all,
Okay.
as long as you're qualified to bid.
All right. And then the other question that I did have, with re-innovating, I guess, the campus and the campus structure, I know you said like those are the projected fields that we're going to be moving into, sort of like the veterinarians and medical fields that were listed originally. Are you?
Well, that was actually just a list for California. Those are
Okay.
the fastest growing job, they say markets for fastest growing jobs for California, not specific to this area.
Okay. So are we thinking about building facilities, I guess more facilities catered towards those careers?
I think what we're doing is we're talking about once the academic programs in the future is determined from the faculty, the deans, and the others who make these decisions, then we will complete the facilities master plan to support that. For example, an educational master plan informs where the facilities master plan goes and informs where the technology master plan goes.
Okay.
So you start with the EMP, and then from there, the facilities and the technology plans are mapped out.
Okay.
And that's kind of where we are right now. So that's why our EMP needs to be updated
Okay.
so that the vision over the next 20 years, say, is sort of mapped out. And then we would go about the task of working with the facilities master planner to creating facilities both on this campus and perhaps off campus at other sites that would support the educational master plan of the college.
Okay.
Great?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now the repurposed space. These are basically with Measure P, and we've done a lot of work here. And you look at the Center for the Arts as being one of the last major projects that we're completing right now, that is on schedule. We're going to have some space around the campus that's still that's actually secondary space or repurposed space that we need to do something. These are more like swing space areas where we have moved a lot of the VAMs. You have in the art building, we have some of the C building occupied, and so you have all of these spaces where we're having instructional space now, office space now. All of that's going to move to the Center for the Arts. These will be vacated spaces, but they'll still need to be, something needs to be done. What are we going to identify those spaces as? So this is repurposed space, and this is about 56,000 square feet of that space. Classroom, laboratories, instructional space, student support space. The question is, what do we do with the $15.6 million? There's some options there. And we basically had a discussion with the board last night is, the option could be complete the remaining master plan 2010 projects. But the problem that we would have is if we complete those projects and then knowing we're going to have a new Centennial master plan, we may spend $5 to $6 million on a building that we may demolish totally. That's really not a good plan. We may consider returning the money to the taxpayers. It's always an option. We have the 16 million left. Do we return that? Yes.
Do we have a deadline on when we have to decide what we're going to do with this money?
Not as of yet, no. But we're not rushing the process, but we know there's a decision needs to be made. So, but it's not a rushed process. We're actually going to go through this as methodical as we can, and make the proper recommendation at the right time. And then, of course, it is a new bond. Now, this new bond, this is just an estimate. It's by no means a projection to say, hey, look, we're going to go out and we're going after $350 million. Like I said before, we won't know what that budget is until we develop the conceptual design that supports the EMP and what the needs are of the campus. So that's just an estimate. But these are some of the decisions that we need to make to go from the Measure P, which is one bond, into a new bond. We don't even know what time frame that bond will be. Like I said, if it's a 2014, 2016, we don't know. But these are projects under consideration. These are need now projects. Outside of Measure P, we have the Student Welcome Center, a front door design, Teaching and Learning Center, and Professional Learning Center, Online Education Center, International Education, Math and English and Skills Center, and the CTE reconfiguration, the Career Technical Education, that ITB building. So these are things that are pressing needs right now. And then we have the C building list of projects there that are also pressing, that are under consideration.
And so what's important to note there is that projects under consideration, district funds. The notion at the moment, and it's subject to change, but at the moment is not to use Measure P funds for this, but to use Fund 41, which is our capital outlay budget, and other district funds that might become available, including some state options that Ruben's about to talk about.
Yes.
And why would that be?
Because
You can use Measure P funds. Why
well,
would
the
you?
primary reason why, and again, no decisions have been made, is because we don't know if it's it might be better from a political point of view to return the funds to the taxpayer as a down payment on, see what a great job we did, how efficient we were with your monies on the first bond, that we were able to return some of that money back to you. So would you please consider another bond which is considerably more than the first, because but we're good stewards of your money. That'd be one reason to do that. Another reason might be we don't want to spend taxpayer money and let the taxpayer find out about it, bond money on something that we put $1 million in and 2 years later we take the building down. And somebody says, well, wait a second, 2 years ago you just put $1 million into this and now you're taking it down. It's a perception thing.
But you wouldn't want to use your own district money to do that either, would you?
I don't know what you'd want to do. I'm just saying that that these are all things that have to be considered,
Okay.
and that they're all under consideration right now. These are projects, particularly the ones that are on the left-hand side there, that are pretty urgently needed for our academic and CTE programs right now. So the question is, what do you do there? And the other question is, how far do you go? Do you basically go in an existing space and you don't do major renovation as far as walls and everything, but you do carpeting, you do paint, you do this, you do that, and you do, relatively cost-effective upgrades, as opposed to, going in and gutting a space and starting over again.
Right.
So there are a variety of ways that you can touch these. And as Ruben pointed out, we have 56,000 square feet of vacated space, and those are good spaces that, again, with some sprucing up, could be turned into something. Could be turned into one of those places.
Absolutely.
So there are options. That's what a space planner would help us look at.
So, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think you kind of addressed it. So some of these things, perhaps on the left side, can actually be used in the vacated areas that will be coming on when the arts building
Yes.
gets
Exactly right.
Yes.
I gotta ask the first one, Student Welcome Center, is that the student center over on the west side of campus?
No,
that would actually.
No, what they're talking about, there's kind of two front doors, if you will. One is a physical welcome space where every student who comes on campus goes and they see counselors, they see, they
actually start with admissions.
They start with admissions. What I'm trying to say is that right now you come on campus, you don't kind of know where to go. You go to the student center and it's a little confusing, what have you.
Okay.
You go to a welcome center where anything and everything you need to know about how you would approach this institution is there. It doesn't have to be a giant space, but it's a space. So they're talking about a physical welcome center, and then the student services folks, and then there's a virtual welcome center concept. We're online. So that's what that is. That's what that notion is.
Okay, so we're talking about like L building?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a whole building though. People have talked about, everybody wants the art gallery. When the art gallery, because it's right in the middle of the campus there, and when the new Center for the Arts opens up, the art gallery moves over to the center. So there's a prime, quote unquote, prime piece of real estate that would be a perfect, in some
Small
people's
building.
minds, small building,
Yeah.
perfect in some people's mind as a welcome center because it's right in the middle of the campus. And people know exactly where to go and how to get there. So people have designs on that space, but I've heard like 4 or 5 people having ideas for that space, so I'm not
Yeah,
sure that
it's
one.
highly coveted.
So if these projects on the left are fairly urgent, what's the timeline for making the decision as to whether you're gonna use Measure P money or district money to do these things?
I would say that that sometime in the next year or so we would try to make some decisions about what we would do. As Ruben is saying here, there's a planning process. We're not spending any money on anything until we do some planning.
Some planning.
Yeah,
Exactly.
with a planning architect and some help with what we're doing.
Yeah, the last one there, the IT building, isn't that a brand new building? We're gonna reconfigure an office?
Well,
Yeah.
what's happened is we've collapsed the CT office that was over here. We've got some division offices now. We've got some grant activity. So we've moved a lot of people, including the extension operation, or wanting to move the extension operation, into this new school, the school of
Current technical
current
education.
education and professional education. So we need more space in that, other than what was in the existing E&T office space now, we need more space to build out enough space to make that, to get everybody under the same roof to do the same work. But again, it's not major though. We're not talking about major, massive work. We're talking about taking down a wall and putting some carpeting in and, doing some stuff like that.
Okay, deferred maintenance. With deferred maintenance, it's actually a 5-year scheduled maintenance plan that we're looking at. We projected about $28.8 million worth of deferred maintenance that we're asking for support from the state with. And so basically, we have a 2014 to 2018 plan. So the first plan is to do something with the mechanical.
So let me step
upgrades.
in, sir. So the total amount of deferred maintenance is how much? Give me the total dollar amount, roughly.
It's over $50 million.
Over 50 million,
Yes.
and over a 5-year period. Okay, and
Yes.
so go ahead. Thank
So,
you.
so we're looking for support with the $28.8 million. For the first year, we're looking at trying to upgrade the mechanical upgrades, $8.4 million. We're looking to get a 50% match from the state based on their deferred maintenance 5-year program. We are waiting to determine if we're going to get approval on that yet, but it does look pretty good for us. They haven't identified the funds yet, but I think that we have all our paperwork in. It's on time. It was done well, and so we're looking to get $4.21 million the first year. And then we're looking to be supplied with $3.23 million to do some exterior repairs. We have roofing repairs that are desperately needed. Utility upgrades outside of the mechanical HVAC work that we're trying to do. And then we have the painting, carpet, and window replacement. Window replacement is critical for energy. We have an issue here just in the C building along this west side where we're just, energy is coming in and going right out of the building, and we have so many complaints about being cold. We have so many complaints in the W building about being either hot or cold. That's one building right now where you have 2 options, and for the whole building, either you get cool air or you get heat. It's one or the other. So the problem is, what I'm looking to do is I'm trying to eliminate the space heaters in the office. It's extremely inefficient. They get left on. They're just a huge demand. And so if we can take care of some of these energy concerns, we not only keep the energy in the building, we get rid of those heaters as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You passed the test.
The RFP is, I think the timeline's in April of this year, which is 2 months, right?
Yeah, and let me, we're working on a process that is going to be a very inclusive process. So the point being is that The facilities standing subcommittee of the College Council will be a significant part of this process, and will likely even have a subgroup, a sub-body, that will be charged with working with Ruben and working with the architects and what have you going forward to create the facilities master plan. Now, the timeline that Ruben suggested up there is just an initial timeline. What I mean by that is that this is not a marathon. We're not running a race here. We're going to take our time. We're going to do it right, because the end result is going to be a campus that is rebuilt for the next 50 years. If you think about it, the C building, the D building, the E building, the R building, the W building, none of those buildings have been essentially touched in decades. Right?
Yes.
So when you think about, creating a 21st century college that has got not only the facilities, but the infrastructure and the environmental and energy efficiencies that are needed, we're not there. So if we're going to take a major bond issue to the taxpayer for what could be between $300 million plus, then we have to make sure that our planning process is done well. Now, if we can get that done in 18 months, great. If it goes beyond that, that's okay.
It's okay.
That's absolutely okay. So we're not going to be in a rush to complete this. We're also going to be as inclusive, not only of our internal community, but our external community as well. If you recall how we did the EMP, we had significant focus groups internally. We had significant town hall meetings externally. We had lots and lots of participation.
So, okay, so the Facilities Master Plan Committee, that's a shared governance committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and that's the committee that is going to come up with the plan before we go to the RFP?
Yeah. So the process is going to be.
I mean, I like what you're saying, but
Yeah.
with all due respect, this all-inclusiveness,
I know.
shared governance around here isn't shared governance.
Okay.
Nothing is really inclusive. So I'm glad to hear you say you're going to take your time and you're going to get everybody's input. So, but I'd like to just understand how and when people are going to get their input.
Yeah.
That's
So
all.
I'm just going to look at some notes here from a meeting that we were in. Just want to see what I'm doing here. Oops. What am I doing here? There we go. So the facilities standing committee would be the primary driver, and working with that group would be maybe a campus Centennial master plan task force of something, which would be kind of a spin-off of that group. They would do their work. They would then report out to the college council. College council would then do their thing. It would then go to the cabinet, the president's cabinet. And from there, it would go to the superintendent, president, and the board. And then we'd be off to the races. So from a shared governance point of view, facilities standing committee, they'd have a spin-off group that would create the plan through whatever task force, whatever process they come up with. It would go to college council. From there, president's cabinet. From the president's cabinet to the superintendent, president, and to the community at that point, probably. Superintendent, president, and to the community.
Yes.
And then from there to the board of trustees.
Exactly.
So in a very, very rough way, just looking at some notes from a meeting here, that would be probably the direction that we would begin to head in. But it would be, but again, we're sort of at, you know, the first blush of this was Ruben's presentation to the board last night to say, here's where we are right now, folks. You know, we're finishing Measure P. We got $15 to $16 million left. We have a lot of work to do. We got all this deferred maintenance. We got some of these immediate plans, because even in the best scenario, right? The best scenario would be 2 years from now we have a facilities master plan.
Right.
18 months to at least 2 years, right?
Right.
2 years from now we got a facilities master plan. Then we got to go find money. Then it's either 2014, 2016, whenever all the consultants tell us it's the best time to go looking for that kind of money in terms of get the electorate to be responsive to that, positively so.
Right.
So by the time the first shovel of dirt is pitched, 5 years, 6 years,
At least 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years. So what happens in between? Well, in between, we have these immediate needs that we're identifying right now. We have 56,000 square feet of space that we got to do something with.
Right.
State's not going to give us any more money unless we can show them we're efficiently using that which we already have.
Right, exactly.
And we got deferred maintenance. So the idea here is that all these things are sort of put on the table to be thought about. Goes to this facilities committee, they do the EMP thing, we get some help in here to begin to put our process together.
Yes.
But my point has been, of late, is that, well, we just can't stop for 5 years. We have to do, because there are things that need to be done.
Yeah, we still need to maintain the campus.
We still need to maintain the campus. Danny's right, we got 15 million, should we spend it, should we not spend it? We gotta save some of that for, might be residual expenses tied to Measure P. Every building project had contingencies and what have you built into it, but
Right.
we could get sued somewhere down the line, and if we don't have some money sitting in Measure P, then it has to come out of the district pocket, if the insurance doesn't cover it all, so we're gonna have to leave some of that money aside anyway. So, do I personally, don't quote me, Courier, do I think the money's gonna go back to the taxpayer? Please don't quote me, Courier. I don't think the money's going back to the taxpayer, but then again, if somebody thinks it's a really smart thing to do to try to curry the goodwill of the electorate to, I don't know, that's beyond me, but yeah.
My problem is, like you said, given
it's on
it,
videotape. Don't quote me videotape. Sorry, I screwed up on that one. Oh well.
giving it back, I agree, I don't think it's gonna go back, because even when you go out for your master plan and so forth, and just like this bond here, it took almost 8 years before the design was made for the buildings and everything else. Like you said, W building, something's gotta be done with it, because you either heat a building or cool the building. That's not good for the students. So eventually, even though W building may come down, you might have to bite the bullet and do something with
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
And that, you're looking out for the students' interest, not necessarily the building's interest.
Right. And I think Ruben's comment about these west windows, anybody who's got an office on this side, anybody who sat, in the winter and felt and froze to
It's
death
frigid.
as the heat's racing out the window. There really is an issue here. The east side was done, the north side.
Yeah, the north and the
Yeah,
east.
north.
Yeah, but we do really need to come back here because we're throwing money away every day.
Every day.
Not only the heat running out, but all these space heaters going crazy. So these are things that have to be done at some point.
Right, and I wasn't suggesting that we don't. So
I know that,
Okay,
sure.
I'm just trying to understand the whole thing, because and again, maybe I just don't understand the RFP, but to suggest, and I know this isn't like a hard deadline, but to suggest within 2 months that we're gonna go out with an RFP. I don't know how you go out with an RFP unless you know what you're looking for in the RFP. And as far as I know, I'm pretty connected, and I'm not on that committee, but
Yeah.
I don't know anything about any of the plans yet. So
Well,
that just seemed quick to me, that's all.
Well,
But maybe everything isn't in place when you do the RFP, I don't know.
Go
Well,
ahead.
let's talk about the RFP, because I think there's a misconception about the RFP. We're actually looking for the RFP to bring in a planner to help us with the process.
Okay.
So that planner will become a part of the facilities committee. So that's what the RFP is for, is we need help. So right now, we can spin our wheels and talk about it and talk about all of our complaints, and it's more or less a gripe session and not moving forward. So that's what the RFP is for, to go out, secure a consultant to help us with the process.
Right, and we might even, that group might get together and just say, you know what, we need to hire somebody else to help us get ready to create the RFP.
Right.
You know, we need to hire someone, like we did with the EMP to some degree, but not to the same level at this point, of a facilitator who can come in and say, okay, they have experience working with a campus community of this size and type to bring everybody together to begin to discuss the things that need to be discussed and then prepare the steps. So I think the primary purpose of the presentation last night to the board, and then today, and Ruben will do the same thing with the College Council next week, is to say it's time now for us as a campus to begin to grapple with this, not only tied to the immediate concerns, but tied to the next 20, 30, 40 years of concerns.
I have a question. Really, it's a concern. Okay, we're talking about spending money constantly. Why do we have to have somebody else from the outside come in again? Why do we always have to have somebody? Don't we have in ENT, don't we have drafters or faculty that can help us with a new plan of some type? I'm just asking the question.
Well,
because you're always throwing money away.
Yeah, I think my response to that is I'm always afraid we don't know what we don't know. And when you're talking about stuff of this type, you really do need to get people with a lot of experience and knowledge in doing these kind of things. And that does not mean, for example, Coleman Griffith is the co-chair of this committee. Knowing Coleman, knowing his architecture program, Coleman will have a lot to contribute in this process. Okay? There may be other faculty who will have a lot to contribute in this process. And along the way, they may be used, but I don't know of any entity that does something of this size and scope that just depends purely on its own internal
It
resources.
seems like we always go out for more consultants and more consultants, and there's more money that keeps going out and keeps going out. And that's just my personal opinion, woman's intuition, but I'm just telling you.
Okay.
That's my concern.
Okay. The other thing that I want to stress out is that, when we first did the Measure P funds, we had a lot of buildings that were, beautifully designed and so forth. But in the process, somebody called valued engineering those buildings. I'm hoping that doesn't happen in the future. Because you have a beautiful building like IT should have been a 3-story building, it became a 2-story. And then you wouldn't have to worry about redesigning things because you would have had enough space.
Yep.
Point taken.
Yes, sir.
Denise brings up a good point. Can you give us a ballpark figure of about how much this consultant firm is going to cost us?
I really don't know. And I'm not saying that we're going to do it or not do it. Well, I take that back. We are definitely going to be hiring a master planner.
Okay.
What a master plan, what would cost, depends on which one is selected.
Yes.
But for projects of this type, it could be several $100,000 at least, usually, for this kind of a project. But again, you're talking about someone who is going to be, or some firm that is going to be basically laying out the design of this campus for decades to come.
Decades to come. And doing it in-house, not saying that we're not talented, and by all means we are a great campus. But the challenge is the amount of time that it takes to do that in-house. Mm-hmm. And you do accept a certain amount of liability. So, sometimes you wanna basically reap the fruits of the labor of the innovators who've actually seen some things that we haven't seen, and they've experienced the ups and the downs, and they know some of the pitfalls that we don't know, and so we might have to go through those. And so a 2-year process can turn into a 10-year process, and then we're not going out for a bond until 2026. So that's kind of the impetus of hiring the professionals to do it.
Yep.
On another matter, the long-range plans, I don't remember if it included the U building, discussions about the U building.
Let's give them an update on the U building, if you would, please.
The U building has actually been submitted as an A3 category. That is a seismic retrofit, needs repair with the state. So the chancellor's offices were actually in our the third of 3 phases of this process, which is going to be submitted to the Board of Governors next month for review. an approval of a $54 million replacement project for the U building.
Funded entirely by the state.
Funded entirely by the state.
Now, the good news is that we are, the highest priority is what's known as an A1, and that literally means if you walk into the building, it will fall on your head, all right? And there is, I think, one project that qualifies for that. And actually, that one project was funded, I think, by existing $12, $13, or pretty much funded.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Then the next highest priority is the A3, the seismic upgrade. And I don't know what number of projects there are there, but I get the impression there's 3 to 5, somewhere in that range from the conversations that we've had with the Chancellor's office. Where we stand in terms of priority there is hard to know, but normally the two defining attributes for priority is the age of the building. In our case, we rank up there pretty good because the U building went up in late 70s.
1971.
1971, so it's a relatively old building, so that weighs well in our favor.
Yes.
And the other one has to do with
Age of the campus.
age of the campus, and that weighs well in our
favor.
favor as well because we're approaching 100 years old. So that's good. So that would put us a little higher up there, and of course through relationships and working with our elected officials and what have you, we could do the things that we could do. However, the biggest drawback right now is that at least currently, at least as of about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, there was no bond money available for any new construction for community colleges or maybe even CSUs and UCs.
Mm-hmm.
So the Chancellor's office, as well as the other two higher education entities,
Mm-hmm.
were looking to get some trailer legislation or whatever they call it specifically into the 2013-14 budget development process to get some bond money going. So and perhaps the good news is that because the economy is moving up,
Mm-hmm.
that the amount of additional bonded indebtedness that the state might take on is looking more promising than it might have 6 months or a year ago. So Ruben and his team and have been doing great work in the last several months in dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, and as he said, there's just one little piece. It's called a SAM.
The SAM.
I'm not sure what that stands for, but
Yeah,
it's a SAM. It's
it's
a narrative
it's a
piece.
narrative piece.
Narrative piece that goes with the FPP, which is called the Final Project Plan for the U building.
Yes.
Now, beneath A2, they have category B, C,
B, C,
D through
D.
F, I think, right?
Correct.
And those are just your normal construction projects, and there's a bunch of those, but we're ahead of those.
So the U building,
Is not
it
part
would
of
take
this.
it down and build a new one.
Yes.
Same square footage and everything.
Actually,
issue?
no. It's going to be like for like with the square footage, but if we were to bring the U building to code compliance, it wouldn't be 81,000. It'd be closer to like 65,000. So the like for like replacement puts the building at around 65,000 square feet.
And that's because with all the ADA requirements and
Yes.
those types
Costs
of
more.
things, it costs more
costs more.
and also more space is needed.
Laboratories,
Laboratory,
yes.
yeah.
That's separate though from the proposed bond way in the future of.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's
That is
different.
independent of the
Okay.
Measure P or the.
And at the same
next one.
time, you're doing FPPs on, right?
Yes, I'm actually going to, we're actually in the process of doing 4 more FPPs for the replacement of potentially the W building or a major renovation, with also seismic retrofits for the C building, the D building, and the E building.
Yeah. So the point is, we're gonna approach this from every angle we can to find money from any place that we can to do what we need to do to for the campus.
So
Absolutely.
the funding for the U building, you're requesting 54 million to all be paid. It's not like a matching thing. It was 54 million.
There is
put
no
off the
match.
state.
That
Yeah.
is solely.
Okay.
And by the way,
funded
talking about value engineering, the state value engineered that
by the
up.
state. Originally, it was $45 million. They actually go back to the drawing board. But what they asked us to do was the original estimate. Well, primarily they focus on construction estimate. So those are the hard costs. So when we're looking at the hard costs, we look at the hard cost for construction of a new building and the hard cost for repair. So for the structural repairs, we were looking at about $31 million. And then our construction for a new building came in at about a little more than $32 million. And when you have the age of the building come into play from 1971, we've exhausted the life of that building. Why would we spend that kind of money to repair? So we justified the new construction or demolition and construction. And then with that, you have escalation. This project, if approved, it is actually part of the 2015-2016 budget. So that's where the escalation comes in. And then with the $54 million, we're, you know,
So is it an all or nothing? I mean, you get the 54 or you don't get anything? Or could they say we're gonna pay for 24 and you're gonna have to match 24?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I believe it's an all or nothing at the moment, but that doesn't mean, I don't know the answer to that question. But what I do know is that we're pretty high priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're up there. So when there's money, it looks like we'll have a good shot at getting funded.
So there's no specific deadline as to when you're gonna get a decision either?
No, I wish there was, and I was a little
Yeah.
disappointed 2-3 weeks ago when I last talked to Susan Yeager, who's
Yes.
the administrator of that fiscal and construction unit, whatever.
Facilities, yes.
Facilities unit up there. Because we talk a lot to Fred Harris, who's the assistant vice chancellor, and so I talked to Susan, and I was just trying to find out there wasn't any money. Okay, but she said that it's really about getting in line for the money, because the money will eventually be there.
And then did you just say something about if we even did get the money, it would be for 15, 16? So in other words, the money wouldn't be there, we wouldn't start doing anything till 15, 16 anyway, or?
Yes, because when we submitted the FPP, it was for the 15-16 year.
Yeah.
So yes, so we have time.
And one thing what we might do though, we might consider demolishing the building and converting it into a green space, because it costs money just to sit
In the
there.
interim between now and 15, 16,
Yeah,
is what you're saying?
yeah, because it costs money just to sit there. We're still.
Yeah, we're running air through it, and
Yeah.
we're maintaining that building now. So
Why
And the
would
rat's
we?
alive.
we keep the air flowing through it. We
I mean,
can't just
You
shut
can't
it down.
just shut it down?
No.
No, then you have.
No one's using it though, right?
And the rats don't like that, though.
Yeah. The rat's
Well,
alive.
I think also you end up with more problems, right? Asbestos-related problems or mold
Yeah,
problems.
we
break
have
down
zone
and
fresh
break up.
air, so it's-
Yeah, yeah.
It just becomes even a bigger mess.
All right, thanks.
All right, so that's a lot of information,
Yeah.
but we wanted to,
You're welcome.
we're going to try to share, and Ruben, thank you for all of your work and the work of all your folks and
Thank you. You're welcome.
everything, and stay tuned for more. So I have just a series of just brief reports that I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention. I will start this by saying that we're still awaiting updated numbers from the state regarding our 12-13 budget numbers. And what I mean by that is that the state is still working on providing us information on what Prop 30 really means to us, and when the cash is coming to us, and how much cash is coming to us, and exactly what our FTES target is for 12-13, et cetera, and the impact of that. So from an enrollment management point of view, Dr. Bell, Dr. Ariano, others are working hard to maximize the revenue that's coming into the district as a result of the FTS that we generate. And they're doing so by adding sections. There'll be some additional online sections coming online, no pun intended, in the, I believe within the next 30 days or less. And all of that is designed to maximize the income. At the present time, and I believe this is going to be where we're focusing on. We're focusing on for the 2 summer sessions starting. The first one starting May 13th, give or take. Is that the date? I think
so.
Something like that. Somewhere between 700 and 800 sections that will be added, and maybe landing right around 750 to 800, somewhere in that range. That's definitely the target. And by doing that, the first session, the May 13th one, would probably come out of the gate with around 500 sections in it. And the idea behind that is that that's the one that most of our existing students would take advantage of. And then the second session would be available to our existing students, but then we might see a population of maybe CSU and UC students who are trying to either get a head start or trying to catch up on some stuff that they might need for their as they work through CSU and UC. So the enrollment management side of the house is working on that. And of course, all that's very important in order to hit our FTES target for 12-13, to be able to generate not only all the revenue that's due us, but even capture some of that growth revenue that's due us, which is roughly $1.5 million.
How is that looking now, in terms of our being able to reach it?
Right now, it's looking good.
Oh.
That summer is important,
Yeah.
though. That summer is important. Spring was pretty healthy and enrolled well in most areas. So I think we're heading there. We're getting there.
So summer, oh, sorry, go ahead.
For the FTES, are we already in the new census date, or is it still second week of classes?
It's still this third week,
Third week.
third Monday. Now in the summer, though, it's the first Monday after the session starts,
Okay.
which is why we can capture both summer sessions, if you will, in the 12-13. Now there's a danger in doing this, though, and I have to be really honest with you, because what you're doing is you're borrowing from 13-14 to make 12-13.
You might want to add a winter intersession. Could help.
But
Or a healthy fall.
that being said, the point is that we are borrowing from 13-14 to make 12-13. But then again, theoretically, you can keep doing that forever, I suspect. But right now, we want to generate as much revenue as we can, so we can deal with everything that we've got to deal with. But to answer your question again, Kent, we're on target, but those summer sections are going to be important.
So summer 2 is going to be significantly less than summer 1, though.
Theoretically, right now
About half.
they're talking about 450 to 500. Summer 2, if you go with that 700 to 800, it could be, it's going to be roughly 200 to 250 sections probably. Okay, and they're still working on finalizing. That seems to be the plan right now.
So there's going to be 2 summer sessions. There's not going to be like 2 6-weeks, an 8-week, and a 12-week. It's just going to be definitely 2 summer.
Well, there's a summer term,
Okay.
and within that summer term, there could be all kinds of.
Okay. Depending on.
Yeah, there could be
who wants
2
to do what.
6s, there could be 1 12, there could be 8s, there could be whatever the academic side of the house
Okay.
determines they want to offer, and the deans and the faculty and what have you.
Okay.
But they're at the moment, there's a calendar with 3 terms in it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so, and I shouldn't say at the moment, because there is. That's what the board adopted. On August 29th of 2012, they adopted the new calendar, so
They
that's it.
adopted a calendar for this year. They haven't adopted next year's
No.
calendar.
Okay.
So there is no calendar for next year.
Yeah.
Adopted by the
It's a
board.
matter of
Okay.
discussion.
But the board has not approved next year's calendar,
No, it's
correct? The
tentative.
13-14.
The tentative calendar.
The board, to my knowledge, on August 29th of 2012,
12.
I guess, the board adopted a new way of offering academic terms at Pasadena City College.
Well, they approve calendars on an annual basis.
Yeah.
So there is no approved calendar for
Yeah.
13-14, correct?
It's my understanding that the board approved on August 29th, 2012, a new method of offering academic terms at Pasadena City College. It was a fall term, a spring term, and a summer term. That's my understanding.
All right, well,
I understand. And
Okay.
yeah.
they
okay.
approve a calendar every year. They approved this year's calendar that way, but they haven't approved next year's calendar.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right. And I respectfully, I hear you, Dan. I hear where you're coming from. Okay. So moving on. Just some quick handouts here. I just wanted to point out that there's good news on the state front in terms of the amount of revenue that the state is collecting. Total revenues for the first month of the calendar year were $4.3 billion above, or 39% estimates found in the governor's proposed 13-14 state budget. Now that is absolutely great news, but it's a little bit, it doesn't quite tell the accurate story, because what happened is a lot of people who did this to beat the increase in the federal tax rates. So a lot of people basically cashed in a lot of their investments in order to pay a lower tax rate. So this is kind of an artificial increase to some degree. So even though it's good news, and even though everybody agrees that the state's economy is on the upswing, we should not be lulled into thinking that it's that good of a picture. It's good, but it's not exactly what this might imply if you weren't a little bit educated. This next piece, School Services of California is a great group. You've heard me talk about them before. This piece talks about the trailer bill language that provides more clarity on the governor's proposals. So if you were to just read this, and I'm not going to take the time to go through it, it'll give you a very good sense of what the governor is really talking about in relation to the Board of Governor fee waivers for students and how that might apply. There's a lot of discussion about putting a cap on the number of units that students can have before they would be asked to go where their registration priority might be lower at that point, and once they hit that cap, or they might be asked to pay additional fees or what have you. Right. This talks about exclusions, excluding remedial courses, advanced placement, dual enrollment, those types of things. Yes, Dave.
Yeah, on that credit cap, do you know if they're talking like, say, somebody has 90 credits here, and they cap it at 90? What if they go to Glendale? They have 0.
That's part of the challenge that they're working on right now through the Student Success Task Force and legislation is how do you deal with the swirling? Students who finish up 90 here or 100 here and they just go over the hill to Glendale or east to Citrus and start all over again. Until there's a statewide system from an MIS point of view, a management information or computing, to be able to track what everybody's doing, it's a challenge. So, but that's part of what this speaks to. This notion of shifting apprenticeship programs and adult ed programs from K-12 to community colleges from $300 million. This talks specifically about the apprenticeship program and what that impact might be.
If I can add, what would those kind of things be?
Well, there's a what once was a $900 million K-12 adult education regional occupational program. Over the years of big budget cuts has now been cut to $300 million. The principal drivers of that are K-12. The governor proposed that be shifted to community colleges. That community colleges, because of their workforce emphasis and what have you, would be better suited to do that than high schools. The problem that the system has with it, of course, is that you're taking a $900 million program, you shoved it into $300 million, and you're taking it out of K-12 and saying, okay, here at community colleges, you deal with the $600 million problem, and you deal with this. So you can imagine there's some concern about that. And an element of that is this apprenticeship program. EPA in this case does not stand for Environmental Protection Agency, it stands for the Educational Protection Act. And the EPA is really what Prop 30 is. And there's something, RDA stands for Redevelopment Agencies, and there is at one point, and you've heard me say this before, I think the state expected to collect $1.8 billion from redevelopment agencies. It's collected maybe $500 million or $600 million or $800 million or what have you. And there's a shortfall between what the community colleges were going to get and what they will get. And so there is backfill legislation that's in place to hold the community colleges harmless and to provide that backfill. And all the CBOs up and down the state are really anxious about that because it's a significant amount of money. And we keep being told not to worry, the money will be there. Trouble is, the money's not going to be there until May, June, July, August, September. So again, it's that little cash flow issue. Right. And we're working our way through that. So, okay, so that's what that report is. The other thing I'm not going to go through, the Legislative Analyst's Office, Higher Education Proposals, and this is their review and their opinion on the governor's budget. It's interesting reading. And between the Department of Finance, Legislative Analyst's Office, and the governor's office, somewhere in the midst of all that lies where this will end up. So it's just interesting reading about that. Now again, because of time, I'm not going to go through this, but this little PowerPoint thing is a very, very good overview of the governor's budget and what he proposed. At our next Brac meeting, we should be able to provide you an update on where the state Prop 30 numbers finally landed us for the balance of 12-13. We're also working on a presentation about how we might begin to go about our budget development process here on campus. And then we'll just do our best to keep you informed. I do want to give you a little update on the $10 million TRAN, the Tax and Revenue Anticipation Note. It's a good thing we did that, because we're using that cash to finance all the additional sections that we've been adding. And we'll use a big chunk of that cash to finance the 700, 800 sections that we've got to pay for, because again, the state is continuing to defer money. So without that cash in the bank, we'd be having a difficult time being able to commit to all of the things that we are committing to and doing right now. So that TRAN turned out to be a good thing, and we were one of the lower TRANs. 10 million, believe it or not, was a lower TRAN. There's a couple of school districts who took out $27 million TRANs. I mean, you wouldn't want to be in the K-12 business right now. Remember that first chart that you showed with the shrinking enrollments? Yeah. That's what's killing school districts right now, is their enrollments are dropping, the cost of their personnel costs are going up, their facilities costs are going up, everything's going up, and the ADA is going down. It's a really bad place to be.
Bob, can I ask you about that demographic that we saw as the first slide? That seems to fly in the face of the Student Success Initiative, where the emphasis was on academic transfer and moving students from high school on the way through. It looks like we're going to be doing a little bit more adult education, a little bit more training. Can we...
Dan, you're right.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. And because the emphasis on the Student Success Transfer is degrees, transfer, and certificates.
Yeah.
What that data is telling us is that the certificate part of it, the workforce, the adult learner part of it, the retraining, the second language. I mean, I can foresee, personally, when we do the facilities master plan, somebody coming back and said, okay, you need a satellite center over here focusing on these 3 or 4 career areas, like a health magnet, with a significant English language learning component tied to it that's contextualized. So if you're going to teach health skills, you're going to also have to teach English language, and that's going to be contextualized to the health professions. And I can see things like that as we as a college focus in on the certificate programs that we're going to offer, because our demographics are changing. We're getting more second language learners in our area, and we're going to have to begin to plan to deal with that.
Absolutely. On the apprenticeship program that they want to shift from K-12 to community colleges, where do they think the community colleges is going to put all these people?
Good question. Yeah, I think they're thinking that what they'd like is the community colleges to partner with the school districts and just take the administration of those programs away from the school districts and community colleges. But then you have to ask yourself, why would we want to do that? Why would we take that on?
And then would we be responsible for maintenance of the buildings?
Maybe.
So I mean, there's a lot of questions that are not really being answered.
I know
asked.
Chancellor Harris is not a fan of this idea at all. And I think as a board. And by the way, I think I mentioned last time, if you haven't had a chance to see him in action, he's a very impressive guy. He spent the last, I think, 14 years as the superintendent, or the chancellor, I guess, of the Los Rios district. So he's got a very, very hands-on, in the weeds knowledge of this stuff. He's not someone who comes as a theoretical base. He comes with a really practical understanding of the business, if you will. I was very impressed with him. Okay, that's all I've got. You've probably heard more than enough from me for one day. Future agenda items, or like I mentioned, we're gonna bring back some information about where we are in the current fiscal. Talk about our budgeting process and other things, I'm sure. When's our next meeting, Cindy? Do you know offhand?
Offhand, I don't know.
I do. Says March 28th.
March 28th? Okay, so March 28th is our next meeting unless you hear otherwise, and we'll get it on the agenda for the next time. That was my fault. I neglected to put that on.
No, because it says March 14th was canceled.
Okay.
You'll be adjusting the schedule.
Okay, so we'll work on that. We'll get the information out. Is there any other item that anybody wants to bring to the group today?
Not at this time.
Not this time? Good, good. All right, do I hear a motion? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Dave moves to adjourn. Denise says yes.
Sure, why not?
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Sure not, why not? Thank you.
I'm Dan, I think we've met before.